We got work to do.
Welcome to Highway to Hell, a supernatural podcast. I'm Christine.
And I'm Kristen.
And today we're talking about Season 5, Episode 9, The Real Ghostbusters.
No, that's not how it goes. God
I was
damn
going to
it.
say, like, who are you going to call? But it sounded really lame, and I was like, maybe she'll say something cooler.
No, that's a much easier reference point than, like, trying to mimic the music.
So for those of you who do not remember this episode, IMDb tells us that Sam and Dean are at a supernatural convention where they meet lots of fans of the supernatural books. After a while, they get the impression that something is not right at the location of the convention. So pretty brief,
Yeah,
but
and it's
cool.
it's funny because it's kind of a very simple concept for an episode. I guess what's interesting about it is it seems like, oh, this is another funny one. It's not gonna pan out. Like, why the hell are we doing this? Kind of, because the apocalypse is still happening. But then at the end, hey, Becky has this entire revelation of important information, and it's like, well, okay, that worked out for us.
Yeah, that was like super important, and it was cool because I didn't see it coming. And she just like totally pulled this thing out that we've seen happen, but
Yeah,
didn't
well,
put
I don't
together.
know that we did see it happening. I think that's the thing. I think Bella had just kind of like taken off and had just kind of said like, yeah, I've got a very interested that's my British accent. Demon, who wants it. She had just mentioned that, but no, I don't know that we ever learned like specifically that it was this guy named Crowley and that all of that good stuff. So I just love that little detail that like the books were actually a lot more in depth than the show is apparently.
Yeah.
And and that she, like even Chuck didn't remember this shit and he could have been a lot more helpful to the guys.
Yeah, oops.
It kind of makes you wonder, like, should Sam and Dean go back and read all the books? What else is hiding in there?
They totally should. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, okay, guys, what does this tell you? You need to do a little skimming over your own books.
Yeah, there could be a lot more content in there that they could use to their advantage.
So this one was directed by James Conway, and it was written by Eric Kripke. I think he did the whole thing. It says created by and teleplayed by. Let me check this link. And Nancy Baird did the story.
Okay.
But Eric wrote the script.
Nancy Baird.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we've heard of Nancy Baird.
I don't recall. It sounds kind of familiar, but maybe I'm just making that up. And we do get Becky back, obviously. So let me see. Emily Perkins as Becky, and then Rob Benedict as Chuck. And then the two guys who really stood out in this episode as like the other Sam and Dean were Devin Rattray as Damien and Ernie Grunwald as Barnes.
Yes. And their relationship, true relationship, it actually earned Supernatural a nomination for the GLAAD Awards.
Really?
Yeah. So there are 3 moments when Supernatural has actually gone up for this award. One of the first time was actually for Ghostfacers. So that relationship
Yes.
with, was it Corbin? Was that his name? Like the
Something
one who
like
died?
yes. I think you're right.
And then this episode, and then another episode, I think in like season 9.
Cool.
Yeah.
I loved it.
But
And I liked both of those guys, but I really liked the guy who was dressed up as Sam Barnes. He was so
yeah.
expressive and funny and just a really natural actor.
Yeah, he was great. He seems like a regular character actor. I've definitely seen him in a bunch of stuff. You know who I forgot to look up though? Um the girl who played the actress.
Oh, yeah.
Um
Yan K. Crystal Lowe. Hmm. Final Destination 3?
mm, oh
Insomnia.
yeah, that's it. Oh my god, yes. She's the girl who dies on the tanning bed. That's literally like one of the
Damn.
best deaths.
Shit.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I got really excited.
That is a really good death, though.
It is, yeah. I recently had a Final D like marathon. I think I had told you, Christine, and I had just seen her.
That's awesome. So the episode the episode starts with a then flashback. We've got a bunch of flashbacks of Sam. Okay, and they're babies, by the way. It's like back in season 1 or something,
Yeah.
where Sam is being a dick, and they're both arguing, and Sam's like arguing with Dean about him being treated like a kid or whatever. And then we get the scene where Dean is telling Sam that John told him that he may have to kill him. And that's a really intense scene. Sam's like, why? And Dean says, I don't know. Then the flashback of Castiel talking to Dean about how they need to get the Colt, and they need it to kill Lucifer. And then we get to some fun flashbacks of the comic book store when the guys went in there and that guy was like, I get it. You guys are LARPing. And they first discover the supernatural books. Flashbacks of Carver Edlund, of Chuck. And then flashback of Becky meeting Sam for the first time and freaking out about how firm he is.
Wow.
Yeah,
Becky.
she's so good. So then we
I
cut. No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, when they were going through like those really old scenes, intense scenes of like, Dean telling Sam that he's gonna have to kill him, and Sam being all, oh, he was like possessed by the devil, or not the devil, I'm sorry, the ghost in Asylum, and he's like yelling at Dean. I was like, damn, like what's gonna happen? Like, how is this gonna come back?
Me too. I thought
Um,
it was going to be super heavy.
I know, but it was interesting that they literally just showed us that so like we could see these guys acting those scenes out. Like that's
I
the only
loved it.
reason. Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty great.
It
I
was
really
really
wanted
good.
more reaction from like Sam and Dean on that. Like Dean just got mad. He's like, "Okay, stop it. No more." Like, but I really wanted to know a little bit more about how they were like feeling, like seeing all of that had happened to them, now
Yes.
4 years later or whatever.
Yeah, especially because they're like, watching them enact these scenes where they were so intense and like it was some of their darkest moments. And they're like,
Oh
these
yeah.
guys are LARPing and pretending to be them. That's just got to be the most surreal experience.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So we cut to now, and Sam and Dean are in the Impala and they're speeding. They're like on a tear, and they pull into a parking lot, and we can't see exactly where they are, but they get out and look around the parking lot, and Dean looks really confused, and we look over and he's staring at 4 black Impalas that are all parked next to each other. And he's like, what? And then they run up to the building and it's a hotel. And they see Chuck in front of the hotel, and both Sam and Dean are like, what's wrong? We got your text and we drove all night And Chuck looks really confused. He's like, what? I never texted you. But, oh no. And then Becky comes running out of the hotel. And she's like, Sam? Oh my God, you're here. She's so excited.
So excited.
So they talk to Becky, and it turns out that she, quote, borrowed Chuck's phone. And she's like, from your pants. Whoa. So you're like pickpocketing Chuck?
Well, and I wasn't sure, like, are they already dating?
Maybe they like did a thing. I don't know.
Because I was like, damn, how close was she to his pants? Like, because I just assumed like
She
they were
definitely had
off.
to at least touch his butt. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, he was showering post-coital shower. And she had to grab the phone. Either way, it's definitely an invasion of his property and privacy.
Yeah, and also she doesn't
bad.
know what Sam and Dean are doing. She's pulling them away for this.
I know. They're doing the apocalypse. Again, it worked out in the end, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they are totally doing the apocalypse, and she doesn't care. And so Chuck's like, what the fuck, basically. And Becky's like, what? They're going to want to see this. And they both go, see what? And she looks at them and she's like, oh my God, I love it when they talk at the same time.
Oh, that must happen often in the books.
Yeah. So then a guy comes out of the hotel and he's like, come on, Chuck, like it's showtime. And then Becky gets excited and goes inside. But before walking inside, Chuck turns to them and he's like, I'm sorry for everything. Just looks really ashamed.
Yeah.
So they kind of like, right? He's like super, I don't know, down about it or something.
Yeah.
So Sam and Dean follow him into the hotel and they walk into the lobby, and this kind of big guy dressed up as Dean walks by with a beer in his hand and looks at Dean and he's like, hey, Dean, looking good.
Everybody's so happy here.
Like,
I love it.
I know, they're so cute. Dean's like, who the hell are you? And he turns around and he's like, I'm Dean too. Duh. Like walks away.
Yeah.
It was such a good moment. Duh. And he's wearing his pendant and everything. It's like t-shirt, flannel, leather jacket, pendant, hair kind of slicked back.
I did notice that the pendant was on point.
And then another guy walks into the room wearing a Hookman costume, and Dean looks scared at first. Like he starts to like get ready for a fight, and then the guy comes over and he's like, "Oh, it's Sam and Dean. You found me." So then he walks off, and Becky comes over, and they're like, "What is this?" And she's like, "It's awesome. The first supernatural convention ever." And so they start like realizing what's happening. They look around and there's a guy in a clown outfit, a guy with yellow contacts, and there's a sign behind him that says "Got salt." And then the music's really intense and Dean's like staring into the distance and the scene cuts.
Oh my God. Just
it's really funny.
The detail of like all of those characters coming back. I love that we saw Ash, somewhere in the background.
Yes.
Oh God, it was so good to see him, right?
It was so funny.
And the clown, was that supposed to be Everybody Loves the Clown? Is that what the reference is?
I think so. That's the one I was thinking of.
It's just so funny because it's such a not a deep cut kind of costume, but it's just, I don't know, just
it's kind of a deep
cut. Offshoot. Yeah. Did you notice the oh God, I don't even remember the episode name. The Scarecrow one. he
Yes.
was there was like a quick flash of the scare, I think, in the audience when they were like speaking,
I
and
think
I
I
was
did see him.
so excited. I was like, "Oh my god, it's Scarecrow!"
Yeah, they brought back some good characters.
They did. They really did. It just makes you think like we've been through a lot of creatures through our time at
Yes.
Supernatural.
Yeah.
A lot of
And
fun
this must have been
ones.
like really like they probably have PTSD about all this shit and they're seeing people dressed up as these like ghosts and monsters. It's just
Yeah.
really that'll throw you off.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's true.
So, they go into the main room that's like the convention room where they're doing like panels and stuff. Um and the guy who's opening it up is telling them the order of events. So, events at this convention are things such as a panel called Frightened Little Boy: The Secret Life of Dean.
Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I don't know. I wanted to know how Dean felt about that.
I missed that one. Oh man, that's good. That's
Yeah.
good. But yeah, poor Dean. Wow.
Shit. And then another one called The Homo-Erotic Subtext of Supernatural. And their
Yes.
faces are like, what? Oh, and also there's a big LARP hunt at 7 p.m. sharp. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, fun.
So they introduce Chuck, and he comes out on stage looking so fucking awkward. He goes up to the mic and hits the mic, and it makes a sound, and he's like, "Okay, good. This isn't as awkward as." And then he like can't speak, and he's like, "Sorry, dry mouth." And he opens a water bottle, and then he drinks like half the bottle.
So awkward.
Um,
So awkward.
so horribly awkward. So then he eventually stops drinking. And he's like, okay, so questions? And everyone's hand goes up in the air. A man stands up, and we find out later that this is Barnes. He's dressed up like Sam. And he asks where, well, they know him as Carver Edlund, but we still know him as Chuck. Just wanted to differentiate real quick. So he asks Chuck how he came up with Sam and Dean in the first place. And he looks toward the back at Sam and Dean, and he's like, it just came to me. And they're like, all right. And so then he calls on this guy who has his fake hook in the air to raise his hand. And he stands up and he's dressed as Hookman. And he goes, ja, why und every fight scene Sam und Dean are having their knife or gun knocked away by the bad guy? Why don't
Oh
they
my
keep it on
god.
some kind of bungee? And then we cut to Sam and Dean in the back, and they're both like, oh, that's kind of a good idea.
Yeah, we should do that. You know, that's kind of true.
And so then Chuck starts answering his question, and before he's finished, the guy's like, yeah, follow up. Why can't Sam and Dean be telling that Ruby is evil? I mean, she's clearly manipulating Sam in some kind of moral lapse. I mean, it's obvious. Nine?
And I had a point about this that I thought was really interesting when I was looking into Supernatural Wiki because okay, the Supernatural book series, they ended on No Rest for the Wicked. So we didn't well, the characters, the readers of this world have not yet seen Ruby turn or anything like that, right? So
Mm.
like Becky,
That's even worse.
I know, exactly. It's like this guy's really picking up on it. And like Becky getting upset, it says here that her reaction is to get offended, which may indicate that she's aware that it is a sensitive subject for the boys. That is if like Chuck has told her. Or that she is blissfully unaware of Ruby's treachery and is a loyal fan of the character. And I love to read it that way, that she's just like, how dare you say that about Ruby? She's trying to help Sam, you know?
Yeah, she's just in all the way for all of it.
Yeah. But I thought that was so fascinating. Yeah, this guy, no, he's not, he has all the good questions, you know? Like,
Yeah, he's
he's
not
on
being
it.
rude. He's just like, excuse me.
Yeah, yeah.
I really, really liked him. So yeah, then after
Hmm.
that, that's when Becky like stomps over to him and she like shouts at him. She's like, "Hey, if you don't like the books, don't read them, Fritz." And I was like, "You are such a racist."
Yeah. Don't be calling names.
Don't make fun of his accent, but it's a really good accent.
It is.
So then Chuck breaks that up, and he takes another question, and a guy stands up and he asks, "What's next for the books?" And Chuck's like, "Well, that leads to an announcement, actually. Thanks to a wealthy Scandinavian investor, we're going to start publishing again." And immediately, everybody, the room just like erupts. They stand up, they start cheering. This guy in the background is like almost crying. He's like screaming. He's like, "Dear God, more books!" It's just like
Oh my God.
extreme.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. And Sam and Dean's faces are like, what the fuck?
Yeah, Chuck should have known. I think Chuck knew exactly. He was looking very
Hmm.
nervous when he said that.
Yeah, that makes sense. So then we cut to the hotel bar, and Chuck and Becky are there, and Chuck brings her over. He's like, "I got you a yellow-eyed cooler." So they have like themed drinks for the convention.
Cute.
Yeah. So then he sits next to her and he's like, "So, Becky, I was wondering, are you doing anything?" And then she's like, "Oh, hi, Sam." And then Chuck's face is like, "God
Wow.
damn it. I know." So they come over and Dean's super pissed at Chuck. He's like, "We're a little busy at the moment. We don't want to be dealing with this." And he wants to know why Chuck is writing more books. I love Chuck so much. He just kind of looks around helplessly. He's like, "For food and shelter? Like, this
Yeah, he
is my
doesn't live in the
living?"
best conditions. Yeah. What else is he gonna do? He's a prophet of the Lord. He can't really use that anywhere else.
No, yeah, exactly. What is this poor guy supposed to do? And Dean's still pissed because he's like, "Well, who asked you to get the rights to our life story or something?" And Chuck's pissed because he's like, "Well, an archangel gave it to me and I didn't want it. So there you go." And so Chuck turns to Becky and he's really cute the way he asks her, but he asks Becky if she would excuse them for a second. And she's like, "Mm-hmm," like really perky. And they leave her to talk. And Chuck turns around to them and he's like, "Do you guys know what I do for a living?" And they're like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, could you tell me? Because I don't." He's like, "I'm not a good writer. I don't have any marketable skills. I'm not a hero who can hit the road and fight monsters." He has to make a living. Um, and he's got a really good point, and they're kind of considering it when they hear a scream from upstairs. They go running, and Chuck tries to stop them, looking like sorry again. But they just take off. So upstairs, they find a woman on the ground and they pick her up and they're like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "I saw a ghost." And they go, "A ghost?" And then this whole crowd of Sam and Dean's shows up behind them.
Yeah. And then I think one of them repeats in Dean's exact
Yeah.
voice, a ghost?
And then one of them's the guy who plays Sam Barnes. He's like, "Ma'am, could you tell us what it looked like?" So the woman starts telling the group about how she saw the ghost of a woman in a really old dress. And they're like, "Can you tell her more about what she looked like?" And she gets really excited and she's like, "Gather close, everybody." And there's like a whole crowd now. And so then Sam and Dean realize, like, "Oh my God, she's an actress. What the fuck?" And they just walk away.
Yeah.
Um, then Becky rushes over and she's super excited that the LARPing has started. And they're like, what is that again? And she's like, live action role playing. Here's the game. And she gives Sam, it's like an info sheet that's like the setup for the game. And it says that whoever wins the game gets a $50 card to Sizzler. That is
Which
pretty good.
no, yeah, that's pretty great. A $50 at Sizzler can get you lots of things. Do they don't have Sizzler here, right?
No, we don't have it here.
Okay.
Do
Cuz
y'all
yeah,
have it
I
in
had looked
Cali?
it up. We do. And it's your basic all you can eat buffet, and I remember going there and stuffing my face all the time.
Oh shit, it's a buffet? Yeah, $50 will get you like how many meals at Sizzler?
Yeah, you can get like steak and shit. It's great.
Fuck.
Yeah, because I looked it up and I was like, what? Like, would they have because this is in like Ohio, I think.
I don't remember.
Um,
Sure.
I was like, would they have it there? And it says Sizzlers are, mainly in California, but also in Washington, Arizona, New Mexico, Idaho, Utah, and Oregon.
Ah.
So it's not even like in the state that they're in. So I wonder if they just like messed up.
Yeah, they
It's
might have missed that if someone didn't think to look and see where Sizzlers were located.
yeah, it was like a California-ism or that they messed up on.
Yeah. So on that piece of paper that Becky gave to Sam is also a like the way that information for the game is set up is like it's a letter from their dad that's like pulled from his journal. So
Oh
they're
my
like,
god, I
"Oh
know.
God, save me." So then we cut to I don't know if he's like actually the hotel manager or if he's just like a fellow like convention like employee like helping put this on and he's pretending to be the hotel manager. The kind of like big guy
Mhm.
with the beard. I don't know. But we cut to him and he's got a crowd of people around him dressed up in suits and they're all holding out fake FBI badges. And he says, "Yes, Agents Lennon and McCartney." It's true that this building is haunted. He says, 100 years ago tonight, mean Mrs. Gore went insane and killed 4 little boys. And Sam and Dean are watching this like, oh God, this can't get any weirder. Um, so then those 2 guys who are like the main other Sam and Dean, they go walking by. And they're acting out that scene from the flashbacks where Dean is telling Sam that he is going to have to kill him. And he's like, Dad said I'm going to have to kill you. And he's like, what? Why would you do that? And then Dean's like, I don't know. And Sam goes, ugh. And they walk away.
I mean, they're not wrong, like that's kind of how it went. It's a little
No.
squished together, but
Yeah, a
oh
little
my god.
paraphrased, maybe.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God. And then all the like grunting and the low voices.
Oh, yes, that was hilarious to me is that
Me
like they
too.
really picked up on the fact that like and didn't Dean's voice sound like especially gruff in this episode? Like Jensen was really putting it on to like to show okay, yeah, this is all true.
Yeah. And also, I'm the real Dean.
Yeah.
So funny.
Mhm.
So then, right after they walk away, Sam and Dean are both at the same time. They're like, I need a drink. So that was the other cute thing, too, that they did in this episode was like, they set it up so that it called back to a lot of things. But then some of
Mhm.
the things that fans in the show would point out about them, they did in the show still.
Yeah, yeah, like speaking in unison, the gruffness of Dean's voice.
Uh-huh. And I've got
There's
a
another
couple others
moment.
too that I'll point out. Oh, what was
Okay,
yours?
yeah.
That might be
Yeah.
one of them.
No, there's a moment later on, I think, and I'm sure you'll point it out, but does it involve the word crispy?
No, tell me yours.
I don't know what exactly it is, but like one of the guys, he says something like, "Oh man, that guy was fried up like a burnt piece of toast." And then Dean goes like, "I'm going to That's it. I'm gonna deep fry this bitch extra crispy." So like he's super pissed like that this guy is like saying that, because he thinks it's lame or whatever. But then he
Yes.
basically says something very similar
Yes, that is
to him, and it's
exactly.
like
I found two others and that I missed that one and that's so awesome. They just
no, yeah, you talk like that, dude.
can't you hear yourself?
Yeah.
Um so we cut to one of the LARPers. He's dressed up as Sam and he's walking around upstairs with this cardboard little EMF that he made. It's really cute. And this is one of those moments he says, "The EMF's going nuts." And then later when Sam has an EMF, he says the exact same thing.
That's good. I didn't catch that
And it's
one.
kind of a classic line.
Yeah, yeah. You know.
So then this woman pops out into the hallway and she's like, "I'm the mean Mrs. Gore." And he shoots her with a Nerf and she's like, "Ow, I'm gone." And he's like, "Aren't you supposed to disappear?" She's like, "How am I supposed to do that?"
I love that.
Yeah. Come on, man. I can only do so much.
Yeah.
So they part ways and he walks off and he's talking on the phone with his friend when suddenly a little boy appears behind him and he says, "Help us. Miss Gore won't let us have any fun." And then he kind of like shifts like a real ghost and the guy flips the fuck out and runs away. And he goes into a room that's in the hotel and he's like, "Oh man, that was awesome." And in the middle of that word, he's grabbed and thrown around the room, slammed into the walls, slammed into the furniture.
Mm.
And then a woman appears in an old dress and says, "Naughty, naughty, naughty." So we go over to Sam and Dean, and they're at the hotel bar having a drink. And Dean sees the girl at the end of the bar who was dressed up as mean Mrs. Gore. And she doesn't even look up from her phone, but he strikes up a conversation with her. God damn it. He is so hot in this episode. I could not handle it. And this was the scene where it really started to get me. I was like, God damn.
Yeah, you were feeling Dean.
I was super feeling Dean this episode. It's been a little while and it was just it was a good moment for me.
Yeah. And
Because
then
you know I
it
love
was
him.
fun. No, of course. And I know I've, I've convinced you like Sam is looking good in these past
It
few
wasn't hard to convince
seasons.
me.
Yeah, I just had to put him in front of you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that this girl is like, "Oh wait, you're different," you know.
Because she looked at him. It was so funny. So he's like talking to her. He says this stupid line, and she's like, "I've heard that like 18 times tonight, and they're all from dudes in MacGyver jackets." And then she looks up at him and she's like, "Oh." And she's like, "You're different though." And I was like, "Yeah, because he's hot."
Yeah, but you know what? It's another one of those moments where it's like, oh, yeah, Dean's one-liners, like they know exactly what he would say in that moment.
Yes. So what he said was not original.
No, it's just a
So
classic
funny.
Dean line.
um And so then the guy who was upstairs and was beaten up by the ghost comes down into the bar and they hear him like yelling to his friend. And he's arguing with him about what happened and trying to convince him of it. And then Sam and Dean go over there and they try to talk to him, but he's like, "No, dude, this isn't part of the game. Like, get away from me." And then he tells his friend that he's going to leave and that he should leave too. So after they leave, Dean turns to Sam and he's like, I don't think he's a good enough actor to be acting. That's, that seemed really convincing.
Mm-hmm.
So then we cut to the manager again looking at a different set of badges. And he says, yes, Agents Jagger and Richards. So good. Sam and Dean pass the group and go to the other side of the room. It's like the lobby. And they go up to the hotel employee who's behind the counter. I feel like this guy might be the manager, but they don't say what he is. But I don't know. He just seems like he's in charge for some reason.
I think the other guy was like playing the hotel manager or something. Like
Yeah.
he was definitely a staff member of the convention, and then this guy is now like, yeah, he's not taking any shit. He's the actual
No.
manager. Uh-huh.
He really makes fun of them for being like nerds. But so let me see, where was I? So they go up to the real hotel manager and they want to talk to him, but he's like, okay, you guys are taking this a little too seriously. And then they slip him some cash. And he's like, okay.
That'll
And it
work.
works. It totally
Mm-hmm.
works. Everything they normally do. That's what I also loved about this episode is that everything they normally do, even though it's predictable by everybody else, it works for like their real
Mm-hmm.
situation.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, so they ask him about the story of Miss Gore and if it's true. And he says yes, it was in 1909 that Miss Gore ran an orphanage and she killed 4 boys in the orphanage and then offed herself. And tonight is the actual anniversary. And they ask if there's like any history with that. And he says that over the years, employees have reported sightings. Some of them have quit. One of them saw Miss Gore. I keep saying Miss and Mrs., but whatever. And while they're talking to the manager, the other Sam and Dean, the LARPers, are coming over and like trying to like nonchalantly listen in.
Yeah.
And then Sam and Dean slip the manager some more cash and ask where they should, where they can find her. And he says to go check out the attic. So then Sam and Dean are checking out the attic. It's pitch black, but they have flashlights and it's real creepy. And then Sam says, the EMF is going nuts. And then the other Sam and Dean are separated from them and they're walking down a hallway looking for the attic. And the guy who's dressed up as Dean is like, where do you think we should go? Or something like that. And the other guy's like, I don't know. I don't really know. He's like in a normal voice. They're so funny. And he's like, you got to stay in character, man. And suddenly behind them, the little boy shows up. They get back in character and the guy who plays Dean asks the boy where Miss Gore's body is and so they can burn it up. I guess it was in that, like torch it to a crisp or something like that.
Yeah.
And the little boy points at a picture at the end of the hallway behind them. So they look at the picture and then they turn around and the boy is gone. And the guy playing Sam is like, it's a fast runner.
Yeah, they're just impressed by this like little kid. They have no idea it's a real ghost.
And when he shows up, it's that guy Barnes. He leans over and looks at him. He's like, oh my God, that makeup is amazing. It's really cute.
Yeah, totally clueless.
Loved him. So they go over to the picture frame and move it aside, and this was pretty creepy. There was a little bloody handprint behind the picture frame.
Yeah, it's
And
creepy.
so yes, super creepy. And then they take the picture off the wall and they see little bloody hands all over the back of the picture. Ooh. They rip off the back and pull out a map that was behind the picture. And then they geek out hard. They're like, okay, this is the coolest game ever.
I mean, to be fair, like if I was LARPing and the game got like this intense and this detailed, I would be like, this is awesome. This
Oh
is
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Um,
It
because
goes hard.
otherwise, like, well, otherwise, I think it's all going pretty well. I mean, I would definitely, if I was doing some sort of LARPing hunting event, I would definitely want to be able to like shoot a little Nerf ball at some poor woman, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, totally. You're winning.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, which I was surprised at because there was like a lot more people there. Like, are only a few people actually LARPing? It's just like, oh, they're all at the sessions, right? Like, okay, maybe they're at
Either that or I think the game is like go off on your own and figure this out. Like there are some scenes you have to do together and then the rest like you split up and you have to like accomplish stuff.
yeah, yeah. I guess just only these few guys were able to kind of get on the right track.
Yeah. By listening in on Sam and Dean.
Yeah.
So then Sam and Dean are still looking around the attic, and a different little boy shows up, and he's sitting in a corner holding his head. And he says, "My mommy loves me." And Sam and Dean turn around, and Sam's like, "I'm sure she does." Well, it was sweet. He's like trying to talk to this little boy ghost. And then he's like, "My mommy loves me this much." And he pulls his hands off of his head, and there's a huge wound on his head. And then he disappears.
Ugh,
Yeah.
gross.
Yeah. Um, so then back downstairs, Sam is making a call and Becky is making all of these inappropriate faces at him. Um, and he's like, I'm on a phone call. So then he gets off the phone and Sam found out that one of the kids Miss Gore killed was her son. This is when Dean gets super pissed. So this is interesting
Mhm.
because maybe they wanted to kind of mirror that line before about like burning something till it's crispy. But
Yeah.
also, like before I figured that out when you said that, I was thinking like, why is he so pissed about this woman who allegedly killed her son? Like, obviously it's horrible, but
No, yeah, but he does get really invested in it. Like,
yeah.
how dare she? Like, this is the worst thing that you could ever do.
Yeah. He's like, okay, that's it.
I'm trying to think, have we seen him get this uppity about a case like this? I feel like there was one where um he really got upset about it, like obsessive about it, but I think it was more because it related to what he was going through. I don't recall what that was though.
I don't know.
I could
Yeah, I was just like, is it because there are kids involved? And I don't know, he's had
he
some
just
good kid
really loves
experiences.
kids. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know
And
that he
hey,
really
I
loves kids, but he's definitely had good kid experiences and like shown that he can be good with them and seem to
yeah,
enjoy it.
he has. But you kind of mentioned it already about Becky being inappropriate. Like she's like
Oh,
she's like sexually harassing Sam. Like
yes.
she licks her hand or something like that.
And then blows it at him.
What? What does that even mean? I
I
don't
don't know.
if
It's
somebody
dirty.
like it is.
She's just such a horn dog.
Oh, yeah, and poor Chuck. Okay. I just had to mention
I
that.
know. I
It's just like
know.
it's a little too much.
I did feel really bad for Chuck. It was like, man, we haven't seen him show any, we haven't really seen him that much, but he hasn't like shown any interest in anybody. And like, I don't know, it was sweet.
Yeah.
And it was funny to me that like he would kind of fall for his number one fan.
Ugh. I know. I don't know how I feel about that. Uh, like I does he really like her, or is he just like, well, this is the only person who really makes me feel amazing and
Yeah,
like
she really
more.
likes me.
Yeah. I mean, even though it's like she really loves the books,
And Sam.
And Sam. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Poor Chuck. Um, So after they get that information and Dean gets super pissed, they hear the other Sam and Dean, Barnes and Damien. I'm going to call them that from now on. But just keep in mind, they're dressed like Sam and Dean. Oh God. And all these images were so hilarious. Like at the beginning, when there was like the big convention room, the camera is panning from one person to the next, and they're all dressed like Sam and Dean. And it is so fucking funny. They just all had the exact same costume on.
Yeah.
So they hear Barnes and Damien talking about the map that they found, and they're in character. They're like, oh yeah, and then over there's the cemetery. It's fucking hilarious. So they walk over to them and Sam tries to like take the map out of Damien's hands, but he doesn't. He grabs it back from him, and Sam's like, that's real. It's at least 100 years old. And Dean goes, give me the map, Chuckles. And he's like, well, you're the Chuckles. He's like trying to be Dean, but
you can't come up with anything better than Chuckles.
And then Damien shows them, he pulls back his jacket like Dean does, and he shows them his plastic gun. And then Barnes, as Sam, he's like, Dean, cool it. And then Dean gets fucking fed up, and he shows them his real gun. He just pulls out his gun. And Sam's like, Dean.
Yes. A real gun. Like, oh, Dean, calm down. But yeah,
that's something I would do. I'd just get like
smoke these fuckers.
Yeah, I would just get well, I win, bro. I'm the real Dean. I have a real gun. Don't fucking come at me with this shit. You know, I would just get so pissed. I would just be like, all right, I'm ending this charade. We're done here. So funny. And Sam does the same thing as Barnes. Sam, he's like, Dean, you know, they're both trying to calm him down. So Sam convinces all of them to work together. He's like, we just thought it would go faster if we all came together. And Barnes and Damien are like, okay, but we get the Sizzler card. And they're like, okay. And they're like, and we get to be Sam and Dean. And they say, okay. And Damien's like, yes.
Oh so my excited. God. That moment, like the whole LARPing thing, I didn't really connect to it because I've never done that at a convention. But like when they said that, when they were like, okay, but we get to be Sam and Dean, I was like, oh God, no, yeah. I've done LARPing. I've done it, you know, in just casually with friends and stuff, right? So like in elementary school, it was like, well, I'm oh God, I don't remember.
I used to play Aladdin. I get to be Jasmine.
Oh, okay.
I get to be Jasmine.
I was like, I get to be Sarah Jessica Parker from Hocus Pocus. You know, like
yeah, I get to be the hot one.
Right.
Yeah.
Or I get to be Xenon from Xenon the 21st Century, which is another Disney Channel original movie. Yeah. Yes. And I'm naming, guys, create a grid of me naming all of the Disney original channel movies because
someone needs to keep track of this.
Somebody does, man.
Oh man.
But yeah. No, that's exactly what it is, you know? Like I did that all the time and it's these guys like doing it and it's like, okay, yeah, I get it. Do the same thing, you know?
Yes. It kind of puts it in a different perspective and you understand. It's just like playing a game. We used to do that all the time and like create stories with those characters and, you know, dress up in Jasmine costume and jump around.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But then there was my friend who was kind of mean. And when I went over to her house, she made me be Aladdin. I would have to be Aladdin. I know.
What a bitch. Well, I was bossy as fuck. So I was always like, I'm getting one.
I was too, but I was at her house and she was bigger than me and I didn't want to.
So she pulled this is my house. Like, card.
Yeah. John had one of those friends too, but his was shittier. Stupid kid.
Oh man.
I know. I felt so bad for little baby John. Anyway, so then Sam and Dean are out with Barnes and Damien, and they're walking outside at night. And Barnes and Damien are like LARPing hard. They call back to Sam and Dean, and they're like, "Come on, Rufus and Bobby, what's the problem?" So they're hilariously in front of Sam and Dean, reenacting that whole scene where Sam and Dean were fighting. And Sam says, "I'm so sick of you telling me what to do." And right after that, Dean just snaps. He's like, "Okay, we're done. That's it." He's like,
Mm-hmm.
"Why would you choose to be these guys?" And they're like, because we're fans like you." And he's like, "No, not a fan. In fact, I think the story sucks. It's not fun. It's not entertaining. It's a river of crap." And he's like, "And their pain is not for your amusement." And then Damien's like, "I don't think they care because they're fictional characters." And Dean's like, "Oh, they care." And he like huffs off. And Sam's like, "He's just really a fan of the books."
Yeah, I wonder if he got like really really pissed off in that moment because that one hit a little bit close to home.
Mm-hmm. And
Like
that's
they've
like
just been
recent.
going through that.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Just recently came up that it was like you're treating Sam like a kid and telling him what to
Yeah.
do.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was
Well,
pretty
there you
good.
go, Dean.
Yeah. I mean,
They were
if
able to pick up on it,
exactly.
back in season 3 stuff.
Yeah, think about where they're at. They're not even as caught up as y'all are, and like they're already talking about it. So they go to a graveyard, the one where Miss Gore is buried. And Sam and Dean go over to her grave and pull out a shovel. And suddenly, Barnes and Damien are like freaked out. And they're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, we're not really digging up graves. We're just playing a game." And Dean's like, "Trust us. You want to win the game, don't you?" And they're like, "Okay." And so they just kind of stand there while Sam and Dean dig up her grave. And then
Yeah.
once they get to the bottom, Dean opens the casket and there's a skeleton inside. And that's when they realize, like, "Oh shit, that's a real skeleton. You guys just dug up a grave." And Damien looks over at Sam and he's like, "You're nuts." And they're fucking out. Like, we're done. And they start to leave. And then Barnes is staring at Sam. And Sam looks over where he's staring and he sees Miss Gore's ghost standing right next to him. She throws Sam across the graveyard, and the guys, Barnes and Damien, go running. And when they try to leave, Miss Gore shows up in front of them and stops them. And she says, "Naughty, naughty, naughty," and puts her hands over both of their hearts. And I don't know what this effect is supposed to be or this like power. We've seen this before where like a ghost can like
Mhm.
clutch onto somebody's heart. And I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I don't we have seen it before and I think it was just like squeezing their heart or like taking the life force out of it or something like that. But like why can some ghosts do it and others can't? I don't think they really ever explain that to us.
Yeah. No, they don't. Um, and so they're both like obviously hurting and freaking out. Dean knows that they're in trouble and he's working fast. And he throws gasoline on the skeleton and this is the next part. So he opens the lighter and flicks it on with just one flick. And he throws it into the casket and Miss Gore's skeleton bursts into flame. And then her ghost disappears and, burns up into flame right in front of Barnes and Damien. And they look over at Dean and he's like, "Real enough for you?" He does like the Batman and Dean voice. So then after that, Sam and Dean, well, Barnes and Damien actually are sitting at the bar drinking and just kind of processing. And they were like, that was. And then Dean comes up behind them and he's like, awful. Yeah, I know. So then Dean slaps down some cash and he's like, rounds on us. And they see Chuck on the way out. And Dean's like, hey, good luck with your books and screw you very much. And then they leave and they try to walk out of the hotel, but the doors are locked. And they look down and unlock the door and try it again, and it's still not budging. So something else is
So
keeping it
crazy.
locked. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love this shot. It's like a shot looking up at Dean from below, and he's like kind of staring around. And he's like, "That's weird." And they walk off and like check around the hotel. Every door, every window is locked, like something's keeping them in. And this is another part that I forgot to link back to the beginning, but Sam's like, "Oh, it's almost like something's keeping us in." And Dean looks at him and he's like, "Gee, you think, Sammy?" So there was a part toward the beginning where Barnes and Damien are talking, and Barnes, as Sam, says something kind of obvious, and Damien turns to him and he says, "Gee, you think, Sammy?"
That's a good one too.
Yeah.
Man.
I know.
Kripke was on it. I mean, it
On
had to be
it.
Kripke who wrote this, like.
Yeah, because he's got all that detail in there.
Mhm.
So then Sam and Dean hear a scream and go running toward it. And they go upstairs and find the girl who played Miss Gore. And they're like, run. And she runs downstairs. And they go into the room that she was in. And the little boy with the bleeding head is sitting in the corner. And he's like, why did mommy go away? And then Dean gets all kind of sassy with him. He's like, what? You're welcome. Like, she killed you. Sam's like, calm down. And so they say that, and the little boy's like, she didn't do this to me. And they're both like, oh shit. And Sam asks who did do this to him, and then he disappears. We cut
Yeah,
over
weird.
yeah, weird. We cut over to the like German or Eastern European Hookman. And he's walking down the hall, and three little boys appear behind him, and he turns around and he's like, how original. Supernatural bringing you more creepy children. Sigh.
Oh my god, I love this.
I loved him so much.
Especially since like we ourselves have talked about like, oh, I guess it's another creepy child
More
in this
creepy children.
episode.
Oh, so funny. And I totally get his reaction. So then one of the boys says, he's like, now Miss Gore's gone, we can have all kinds of fun. And all three of them pull out knives. Ooh. So Sam and Dean hear screaming, and they go running to look for it, and they find the man dead, and his scalp is gone. So Chuck is wrapping up his Q&A sessions in the main convention room, and he already looks exhausted. He looks really tired and just like, get me out of here. And then Sam runs up to him while he's on stage and whispers something in his ear, and Chuck's like, what? Holy crap. Which is like, if I were in the audience, I would not feel good about that.
Yeah, no.
And so Sam tells him that he has to keep everybody in that room. And he's like, how do I do that? And Sam's like, I don't know, man. Just do it. So Sam runs off, and Chuck's like, good news. I have much more to tell you, I guess. Awesome. And Sam and Dean go around the hotel and like round everybody up. They're like, come on, you don't want to miss this. And so they get everyone from the hotel into that room, put salt around the doors, and close everybody in. And Sam and Dean are talking fast about like what's going on. So Sam thinks that the three boys that showed up to the German guy killed the other one who showed them his head, and then who was Miss Gore's son. So Miss Gore caught them in the act of doing this to her son. She killed the 3 boys who did it and then killed herself. This is their theory. And then once they died and their spirits weren't at rest, Miss Gore was the only one who was still keeping the ghosts of the 3 boys in line. Then we cut to the girl who played Miss Gore, and she's talking to Sam and Dean, and she's like, "You want me to do what?" Dean's like, "You're an actress. We just want you to act." Sam and Dean almost have her convinced to help them out when Barnes and Damien come over and they tell them that they want to help. And then Dean says to Sam, he's like, "Just give her the puppy dog thing, okay?" And he like pushes Sam like toward her. And then he gets in front of him and turns to Barnes and Damien and he's like, "Guys, no." He's like, "This isn't a game anymore." And they're like, "Oh no, we know. And we're freaking terrified. But if everyone's in trouble, we have to help." And Dean's like, "Why?" And then Damien says, "Because that's what Sam and Dean would do." So sweet.
Aww.
And that
That's so
seems
cute.
to kind of get Dean.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay."
I guess that's what I gotta do.
Yeah, he gets that. And then we look over at Chuck and he's answering a question and he's like, "No, there's really no such thing as a Croatoan virus down there. You really should see a doctor."
What is this question? What? No.
I don't wanna know.
First off, I don't want to know about the fucking Croton virus. Okay,
In your
don't
pants.
ever mention, and especially in your pants.
So, we cut over to the woman who played Miss Gore, and she really doesn't want to be bait. She's like standing in the middle of this room upstairs, and Dean's hiding behind a wall while she's in the room. God, he's just so goddamn hot. I just was lusting so hard in this episode at times. So she's like, "I really don't want to do this." And he like leans from around the wall and looks at her and he's like, "I'm right here, sweetheart. I got your back." And I was like, "God damn it. Can you say that to me, please?"
Okay, maybe I should cut them together, like, because I've got Christine, like from the Christine one. Christine, I'm right here, sweetheart.
Oh my God. Can that be my Christmas present? I was just like a fucking puddle after he said that. It was ridiculous.
Okay. I've got some work to do.
Good one. I just want him to call me sweetheart. That's all. Just talk to me like that. Anyway, it's a little warm in here. So, the woman who plays Miss Gore is standing in the middle of the room and she starts talking just into the room and she tells the boys to come here this instant. And they don't show up, but to her credit, she keeps trying. She's like, "Come here, you've been very bad." And they finally show up and they say, "Miss Gore?" Like they're kind of convinced. And she says, "You boys have been very naughty. Open the doors right now." And then downstairs, Sam and Barnes and Damien are pushing on the front door as hard as they can. And Barnes, who's the skinniest, gets through first. And then Damien ends up getting through as well. And then upstairs, while the girl is talking to the ghosts, her phone goes off. Oops.
Ring-a-ling.
It's like kind of like this rappy sounding song. And she like is staring at the boys, but like slowly reaches for her phone and pulls it out of her pocket and turns the ringer off. And then the boys look at her like, "What the fuck?" Like, "We know you're a fraud." And Dean hears the phone go off and he's on the other side of the wall and he like rolls his eyes and comes out from behind the wall with a fire poker. Oh, God damn it. Every line he had just got me so good. So all he does is say, run. Why is that hot? Why?
I don't know.
Like he's
He
taking
just
care of me. He's, got control of the situation.
yeah, I think you were LARPing yourself into
I
this
think so
episode.
too. Can I pretend to be Miss Gore? So she takes off as soon as he tells her to run, and the boys start coming toward him with their knives out. And the scene cuts to Barnes and Damien, and they have gotten out of the hotel and run over to the cemetery, and they're starting to dig the graves of the three boys. And they've gotten pretty far, and Barnes is so cute. He like gets up out of the hole and he's like, "Oh my god, supernatural makes digging graves seem so easy. It's not though. I'm gonna throw up."
That's true. I think it would be really, really hard work, you know?
Yeah, it would take me
Um,
forever and I would hate it.
well, because the dirt is probably all like dry
Hard.
and stuff. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you can only get like so much onto your shovel at a time. It's like it would take for fucking ever.
Mm-hmm.
Um and then Damien's like, "No, you're not." He's like pumping him up for it. So they get back to digging. Then back with Dean, the ghosts of the boys overpower him, and um, suddenly Sam comes into the room and grabs the fire poker and slashes it through the ghosts so they disappear. And then another boy shows up and throws Sam into a wall, and he loses the poker. Well, maybe he should have a bungee.
Yep. That would make things a lot easier.
What if he had some kind of bungee? Uh, so then we cut back to Chuck, and he looks so tired at this point. He's just fucking exhausted. And he's just like speaking into this mic very slowly. And he's like, "Let's see, what else? I fell in love for the first time at 16. Lost my virginity, actually. But then she went around telling everybody it didn't count. So."
Oh my god. That just makes you wonder, like, what happened? What
I
happened
know.
there, Chuck? Poor thing.
Poor thing. He had a bad experience.
I guess it's been a while, right? I mean, I would have expected him to have, because in the beginning, the very beginning, when he starts to stall for time, he mentions the angels, and it's like, oh, is he gonna go into like a preview of his
I
next
was
series
trying to
of
like
books?
hear what he was saying behind what everybody else was saying. I was like wondering if he was going to like give something away or say something interesting like in the background.
Yeah, I
But
thought that's what he would have done, but instead he decided to kind of go this route. And surprisingly though, the hotel manager has stayed for this entire thing. So
yeah, like 20 minutes into it I would have been like, "All right, I got to go back to work."
why am I listening to this guy's virginity story?
Stories. Ah. So this is when he is like fed up with it. The manager gets up from the back of the room and goes over to the door, and Chuck yells at him. He like screams at him not to open the door, but he's like,
Mhm.
whatever, and opens it anyway. Pushes aside the salt ring, and as soon as he opens the door, one of the three boys is in the doorway. It's like slow-mo. Everybody's like, "Oh my god." The ghost boy comes over to him with his knife drawn, and then Chuck comes out of nowhere. And I can't tell if it's like the mic stand or a hat stand or something that's iron that he has, but he slices it through the little boy ghost and makes him go away. And as this happens, it's all like in slow mo and he looks super heroic. And we look over at Becky and she's like looking at him like she looks at Sam. It's beautiful. And Chuck just takes
Mhm.
control. He's like, "I said nobody leaves this room, damn it. Somebody salt this door." He's just like large and in charge at this point.
Yeah.
So at the graveyard, Damien is, they're all set. They've got the graves open. They've doused them. And he's trying to light it on fire. And he can't light the lighter. And he's like, how come Dean always lights this on the first friggin' try? Come on. So earlier, when Dean had done it, he did it the first try.
Great. So great.
So good. Then Sam and Dean are still fighting the little boy ghosts, and one of the boys grabs Sam's head and is trying to scalp him. And I figured, like, since they're ghosts, they have some kind of like extra strength, like super strength, because these are some strong little kids.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to scalp Sam, and then another boy starts choking Dean and trying to scalp him. And then after a second, both the boys burst into flame, and Sam and Dean are okay. And then we cut back to Barnes and Damien standing like Sam and Dean do in front of like graves or bodies when they're on fire, just like looking into the fire. And then they look at each other and they're just like, yeah. So Sam and Dean get up, and Dean, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I fucked up. It's the next scene right here where Dean's like, yeah, we should get those bungees, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, he grabs the poker and he's like, maybe that guy was right. Maybe we should put these on a bungee. And Sam's face is like, yeah, maybe. And he's like nodding.
Oh, God.
So funny. So then they're leaving the hotel in the morning, and Dean tells Barnes and Damien that they really saved their asses. And he's like, so thank you. He's like, gosh, I don't even know your names. And Barnes is like, oh, well, I'm Barnes, and this is Damien. What's yours? And he like points at him kind of like cutely. And Dean looks at them and he's like, Dean, the real Dean. And they look at him, long pause. And then they just start laughing and they're like, ah, yeah, good one, Dean. And Dean just kind of blows it off. He's real nice about it. And he's like, no, but really, thanks. That was really good. And he starts to walk away, and Damien calls to him and he's like, you're wrong, though. And Dean turns around and Damien's like, no offense, but I don't think you really get what the story's about. I loved this. And Dean's like, is that so? And Damien's like, well, get this. In real life, he sells stereo equipment. I fix copiers. Our lives suck. But to be Sam and Dean, to wake up every morning and save the world. And then he gets kind of choked up here and he's like, to have a brother who would die for you? Well, who wouldn't want that? And Dean kind of looks around and thinks about it. And he's like, maybe you got a point. And he says, you guys make a pretty good team yourselves. How do you know each other, by the way? And Barnes is like, oh, well, we met online. Supernatural chat room. And Dean's like, oh, well, must be nice to get out of your mom's basement and make some friends. And Damien says, we're more than friends. And we look down and they start holding hands. And he's like, we're partners. And Dean just looks blank for a second. And then he's like, oh.
Yeah, he gets it.
Yeah, he finally gets it. And then Barnes leans. He's so much taller than Damien, but he like leans his head all the way down onto Damien's shoulder.
It's so cute. It's adorable.
I loved it. And they both just kind of like smile at him real cutely. And Dean's like, well, howdy, partners. And Barnes is like, howdy. Dean's like, all right, bye.
Did you feel like
and
this
so
was
then, what?
kind of a nod to the whole like Sam and Dean shipping? Like I kind of had expected
Yeah, I did.
Dean to kind of go like, well, that's kind of weird that you guys are like LARPing as brothers though, like to kind of call it out.
Uh-huh. It's like, what are y'all doing anyway?
Yeah.
I loved it. So then there's like this super theatrical scene where this music is like very dramatic. We have a close-up shot of Becky talking to Sam, and she's basically breaking up with him. She's like, I know that we had undeniable chemistry, but like a monkey on the sun, it was too hot to live. What the fuck are you talking about?
This metaphor. Yeah.
Like a monkey on the sun. This isn't a thing, Becky. That's not a saying.
No. No, not at all.
She's like, Chuck and I have found each other. My yin to his proud yang. And I'm so, so sorry. And then the camera pans over and Chuck is standing right next to her. And he's like, yeah, Sam, sorry. But he's like trying not to look too pleased with himself. He's like trying not to smile this whole time, which is cute.
Yeah.
And Becky asks Sam, she's like, will you be all right? And Sam kind of takes a second and he like, fixes his face into like a very serious, dramatic face. He's like, honestly, I don't know. I'll just have to find a way to keep living, I guess.
That's sweet of him.
I know. And so then before he leaves, Sam turns to Chuck and he's like, by the way, it's okay if you want to write more books. And he's like, oh my God, really? Sam's like, no, not really. We have guns and we'll find you. He's like, oh, okay. No more books.
I thought that was pretty harsh for Sam,
Yeah.
like he really does not like this.
No, I actually thought they were going to end up being okay with it because what is he supposed to do? So then Sam starts walking away from them, but Becky stops him. And she's like, Sam, by the way, in chapter 33 of Supernatural, Time is on My Side, that girl Bella stole the Colt from you, and then she said she gave it to Lilith, remember? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, she lied, right? She never really gave it to Lilith. And he's like, what the fuck? She's like, there was this one scene where Bella gave the Colt to Crowley, Lilith's right-hand man, and I think her lover too. And so Sam's like very intrigued and is like, Becky, tell me everything. And so then by the Impala, Dean's like leaning on the Impala and just smiling to himself like a sexy fucking beast. And then Sam walks up and says, he's like, hey, you okay? And Dean's like, yeah, you know what? I think I'm good. And he's like still smiling and just seems really happy. And Sam's like, well, good, because I got a lead on the Colt. And he's like, what? And he's like, yeah, I'll tell you about it on the way. And so they just get in the Impala and drive off. And so this is like, then we get into this scene where this is more of the answers that Chuck was giving during his question and answer session.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what reminded me of Anchorman too, because they kind of do that at the end of the movie. He's like, no, I don't think the Benders made flesh suits out of people, maybe made a couple scarves. And then there's like a shot of Sam and Dean. Yeah. A shot of Sam and Dean in the back of the room making like kill me gestures. Like Sam is like slicing across his neck and Dean's holding a handgun to his head.
Yeah.
It's so funny. And then my favorite one was Chuck saying, the way I look at it, it's not really jumping the shark if you never come back down,
I'm still trying to wrap my head around Becky saying, okay, the whole Lilith thing.
So
yes,
I wrote this all down.
yes.
Let's see again. Okay, so she says in chapter 33, okay, so episode Time is on My Side, Bella stole the Colt from you and then said that she gave it to Lilith. And that was it. So maybe that's just all we saw. So she lied and never really gave it to Lilith, but gave it to Crowley, Lilith's right-hand man, and maybe her lover.
Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
Well, I guess that makes sense. And I don't know that we actually like saw the exchange happen,
I don't think so.
but
Now
we
that I think
did
about
just
it.
hear about it from Bella because she was, I think, distraught that like she had given the Colt away, but it didn't work. She was still gonna die.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so then it was inserted that like it wasn't she didn't give the Colt directly to Lilith.
Yeah.
Um, even though I guess she had assumed that Crowley, as the right hand man, would, pass it along.
So maybe
So
that's why
that's
Bella still
interesting.
died.
I think the only thing that was odd though is Becky didn't really mention why she's giving them this information.
No.
Like I had expected her to say like, "Oh, Chuck mentioned, I mean not that like
Yeah.
they've been in contact with Chuck, but like Chuck mentioned that you guys have been looking for the Colt. Well, here's this information."
Hmm. No, it was yeah, it didn't seem like it was for any reason. She just offered it up.
Yeah. Hmm.
Hmm. And maybe there's more too, because he kept talking to Becky for a bit after that. So I wonder all of what he told Dean when they got back into the car and took off. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But pretty cool. I like that connection. And it makes me feel like I missed something, which is cool because there's, you always like layers of things and when something early in the story connects to things later in the story.
Oh, for sure.
Love that shit. Um,
Um,
well, I loved this episode.
Yay. I love it so much. It's just it's so funny and meta.
Hmm.
Um it's really great, and I'm so glad that Kripke wrote it because I love that you mentioned all of those little like side by side parallelisms between Dean and like the character Sam and Dean and the characters that uh are LARPing as them. Yeah, I don't it's gonna be kind of tough putting it on the ranking because it's hilarious. And I think it's one of the funniest episodes that we've seen to date.
Hmm.
But it's also not like a super, super important episode, except for the last part, right? I mean, that was
Right.
some good bit of information.
Hmm.
Um,
They do that to us though. Like in these funny episodes, they always throw, or they seem to throw a little something in there that is important. But I would say this is very important. And I like the way that it shows up, like from a fan who read the books.
mhm. Yeah.
That was clever.
Yeah, for me, I was kind of looking at it as like right above 20. Um,
Hmm.
I was kind of contemplating like even above that, but I'm not sure.
Well, I see Crossroad Blues in there, and I think that was one where it wasn't super important. It was just cool and done really well.
Mhm. Mhm.
I kind of feel it around there. And that's at 13.
Yeah, that's true.
Just because, production wise, meta wise, acting wise, I loved the other actors who were in this episode.
Mhm.
Barnes just really made it for me, but Damien was also
Mhm.
excellent.
Yeah. I
Um,
I think everybody like there were no misses with this episode,
mhm.
you know?
Right. It did what it was supposed to do as well as it could have done it.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. That does make sense to me. I don't I don't see it maybe above that.
Hmm.
Um,
Me either.
but I think that space is good for it.
What do you think? Above Crossroad Blues?
Yeah.
That's the new number 13.
Yes.
Whoa. All right, guys. So the Real Ghostbusters is the new number 13. And this one's going in the trunk. Cool.
Cool. So, we haven't really talked about this, and I've been meaning to post out on social media about this, and I'm sure I will by this point. But next episode, Abandon All Hope, is one. It's a big episode. It kind of works almost like a uh, a mid season finale, you know. But also, it's the last episode that we're putting out before our hiatus, our winter hiatus. We're gonna go in and hibernate and
Hibernatus.
the hibernatus, yes.
I'm losing my mind.
No, I love it. I think we're trying to do a mailbag minisode as well during that hiatus time.
Mhm.
Uh, and I know that you guys have been sending in those thoughts and emails and all of that stuff. And so we're not ignoring them. I promise. It's just we're trying to uh, get some more so we have a good hefty minisode to give you guys.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm excited to discuss this episode. It's going to be real interesting. And even though, it's going to be sad, it's always sad to kind of like take breaks and not, it's always hard to like not keep on watching Supernatural during these breaks.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good one to leave off on, and it'll be a good discussion for sure.
Cool. Yeah, I'm a little bummed that I won't be able to just, jump ahead and watch more over the break, but also this break, y'all, is coming at a time when we really need it.
Yeah.
I know that y'all are probably aware I'm getting married on December 7th, and I think I've reached this state where it's all like so insane that I'm okay. Like you're just kind of like numb.
Yeah. You're just that dog watching the fire burn around you.
Right. And I only cry in private. But yeah, the room's like burning around me and I'm like, this is fine.
Yeah.
And it's fun. I was thinking about it today too, like just in case anybody's like worried or anything. It's not the marriage part that I am freaking out about. Like I'm excited about that and it's going to be great. The wedding itself, the fucking event is like,
oh yeah,
what's driving me crazy. This has just become a
it's
monster.
so stressful. Yeah.
So much more than I like wanted to deal with. But
no, yeah.
So that's happening. And then, not a big deal. Kristen's having a baby around Christmas. It's only like
Yeah,
life changing.
I know. So yeah, I'm due around Christmas time, and so yeah, there's a lot happening during this hiatus. We're not going to be just sitting around, that's for sure. We're going to be getting married and pushing babies out. So
yeah, big stuff, man.
But hopefully we're ready to go after our break and
back in
well rested
January.
and everything.
Yep.
Yeah, and just to finish out season 5. It feels like we've been in season 5 for a while now, but this is episode 10 only and so much has already happened. It's crazy.
I love it. That's exciting because I was kind of feeling already like, oh man, I've heard season 5 is so good and it's like almost at the end. And then I was like, no, it's not. We have so much left. Okay. Well, y'all should know where to find us, but real quick, if you don't, our blog is at www.highwayhwytohellpodcast.com. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter. Our handle is at Highway to Hell Podcast, and we're also on Facebook. If you have any questions, You want to send us stuff for our mailbag minisodes, you can email us at highwaytohellpodcast@gmail.com. We also have a voicemail, so call us. I don't think we've gotten any voicemails in a while, but they're really fun.
Yeah.
Our phone number is 908-516-HELL, 908-516-4355. And we hope that you will give us all of your feedback for us to give feedback on. And until then, we'll see you on the highway to hell. Bye.
Bye.